Hello, this is Just Listen, hosted by George. Today is February 2nd, 2026. And guess what, guys? It's still really cold outside, but I think that the weather's going to go up to the 20s soon. As usual, I would like you to pass on my podcast to other people. And I think that I've kept my promise to you of doing facts and details, and you can make your own decision. So today, I want to talk about the U.S. federal government policy on artificial intelligence. So, about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I did a podcast about artificial intelligence because at the time it was really coming into the mainstream frame of mind because the previous president was promoting it to talking about it, etc. So I want to talk about the 2026 where we're at now. And where we're at now is the policy centers on accelerating innovation, removing regulatory barriers to ensure global leadership, and promoting open source development that was developed in what they call the American AI Action Plan. All right, so the policy has shifted from when I talked about it last toward a preemptive federal framework with initiatives aimed at overcoming state level regulations to foster a unified national AI ecosystem. I am going to have to do a part one, a part two, and possibly a part three because artificial intelligence is a huge subject that goes into a lot of different areas. So what I want to focus on today is key components of the current U.S. federal policy. I want to look at some core policy pillars and then give you some examples of what's happening now through the courts. And like I said previously, there's two or three more huge areas that we're going to talk about, especially in the future, talking about the workplace. Okay, so the current U.S. Policy is primarily shaped by Trump's AI action plan, and it emphasizes pro-innovation, deregulatory approach, focus on maintaining global dominance while actively centralizing authority at the federal level to supersede state level regulations. So I've said state a couple of times here, and you're going to find out why there is a little, I would say, friction between the federal and state on artificial intelligence. So here's why. National preemption. Now, oh, by the way, other countries are developing AI initiatives like the Arabian countries. The Arabian countries actually have been very aggressive on their initiatives. And as I have previously told you in several podcasts, they, meaning the Arabians, have the money to bring in the talent to develop their AI initiatives. And it looks like currently the current administration wants to take a bigger lead for leadership in the world. Okay, so With that being said, so the administration has moved aggressively to eliminate the patchwork of state level AI laws, like those in California and Colorado, that it views as burdensome to innovation. AI litigation task force established within the Department of Justice to legally challenge state AI laws that unconstitutionally regulate interstate commerce or conflict with federal policy. Now, what that is about is we're talking about data centers. And in Illinois, I know that there is an initiative to create more data centers. And data centers take a lot of power, and they have said that there are some environmental concerns as well. Now, we're not going to get into the weeds on that, but that's what the federal government is looking at, and they want to establish standards so that we can get these data centers. So everything is tied to artificial intelligence being able to be used to put more information out there and to evaluate a lot more conditions. I'll call them conditions, whether it's in hiring, whether it's in making cartoons that are AI generated, actors who are AI generated, etc. So that's a broad thing, but you have to have the infrastructure if you're going to do that. Also, the Department of Commerce may withhold broadband equity access and deployment funds and other discretionary grants from states with onerous AI regulations. So, money. The federal government currently is giving states money to fund the federal initiatives, but in some of the states, they are holding the money or they're getting stuck at the local levels with communities saying that they don't want these data centers, for example. Now again, this is infrastructure. This is putting the support hardware and software into place to generate all of these massive AI thoughts, initiatives, and etc. And that could also affect employment, which would be a whole different podcast. So the AI Action Plan, America's AI Action Plan, is organized through three primary goals: accelerating innovation, so as previously stated, removing federal regulations that hinder development and streamlining the adoption of AI across all sectors. The second one is building AI infrastructure, and that's what I was trying to talk about a little earlier, because as I told you, this is already being talked about with state and local governments. Modernizing permits for data centers, semiconductor plants, and prioritizing AI skills in the workforce training and apprenticeships. So the first two are what I'm talking about today, the data centers and the semiconductor plants, because like I told you, this requires a lot of power to generate these data centers. You need power. And then, of course, the workforce. International diplomacy and security, promoting the export of American AI technology stack to allies and tightening restrictions on competitors. Okay, so that's very important because American companies are trying to leverage themselves that they are experts in this. And if we are generating ideas for the technology stack abroad, that means more jobs for the American economy potentially. Now, the next area is the content and procurement guardrails. So, here we go. The administration has specifically targeted what it terms as ideological bias in AI systems. Now, what they're talking about is preventing woke AI. So, there is actually an executive order that mandates the federal agencies only procure large language models that are truth seeking and ideologically neutral, specifically banning systems trained on diversity, equity, and inclusion concepts. That was a big political firestorm during the last election. And I remember thinking back then that why would an AI be put into place that would even look for those things? Because how would a machine do that? When I'm going to tell you what was being done in the past, and then you can decide what you think about that. But the change is they term it as truth seeking and ideologically neutral artificial system. So that system is made up of programming and there are inputs to it. And so somehow it was told to look for DEI concepts, and now they're trying to make them neutral. All right, so here specifically are the examples. Recruitment and hiring. AI tools are increasingly designed to identify and remove human bias from talent pipeline. Bias detecting algorithms were actually out there. Tools that were used as Tanjay are programmed to ignore accents or language quality to focus solely on candidate skills. Now, I didn't even know that such a thing existed, to ignore accents or language quality. Also, inclusive job descriptions. Generative AI analysis job postings for gender or exclusionary language, suggesting inclusive alternatives to attract a broader talent pool. That was out there. Skill-based selection. Organizations use AI to prioritize merit by stripping away demographic data like name, age, gender, or age from resumes during initial screenings. Now, with the recruitment and hiring, when I was in the game of being hired, I remember that there was never anything about gender and age, because that would have been illegal. And how it ended up in skill-based selection is interesting to me because someone had to promote that. Product design and representation. So, DEI principles directly influence the data sets used to train user-faced products. So, they had inclusive visual data sets, which were to solve the issue of facial recognition failing for darker skin tones. Okay, so you're getting a flavor at what was going on in the previous administration, and you have to decide how to take that in everyday life to why that would have been made 2 or 3 years ago, to what was the purpose of that. So a little bit surprised at that, even myself. Okay, so workplace analytics. So there was companies who used DEI lens to monitor internal fairness in real time, if you can believe it. And then AI was used to deliver more personalized and effective DEI education. Adaptive learning. Rather than one size fits all training, AI platforms analyze an employee's role and background to recommend tailored DEI models. That's what they were doing. And now that practice is gone. And most of this was in the federal employees training, etc. I think some companies were doing it, but again, you have to judge if if artificial intelligence should have ever been involved in this in the first place. Okay, so the last part is I want to talk about some of the lawsuits that were generated as a result of this. All right, so a big one was Mobley versus Workday. It was around 2023 to the present. One of the most high profile cases where plaintiff alleged Workday's AI powered screening tool discriminated against him based on race, age, and disability status. So the court certified this as a collective action for age discrimination. So, based on what I said earlier, that some of these AI tools that were developed through the leadership of the previous administration gave people in the workplace cause to file complaints against companies. Another one is the EEOC versus iTutor Group, the first major AI basis bias settlement. The EEOC alleged the company's recruitment software automatically rejected female applicants over 55 and male applicants over 60. The company settled. They got $365,000. Okay. Harper versus Sirius. A federal lawsuit filed in Michigan alleging that SiriusXM's AI hiring software unlawfully discriminates against black applicants based on using biased proxies like employment history and education. So, why would they be concerned about history and employment history and education? That would be on everybody's paper resume. So some of these I'm going to take a deeper look at. The reason that I brought it up, and we're starting to get long on this one, so I'm going to wrap it up. What the information is showing is that when the previous administration made the AI tools do these things, meaning they specially things looking for DEI concepts that they came up with, that spurred these lawsuits from the AI software. And something to think about is if they hadn't done the AI DEI tools, if these lawsuits would have ever happened, because based on the criteria given to the AI, wouldn't it have found something through these tools? Because the example is employment history and education. What would that mean? On every resume that I've ever done, that is on there. So why would it be biased against a group when that information needs to be provided anyway? So the country is headed forward with doing artificial intelligence a different way, and I stated what the priorities are going to be now. And like I told you, hopefully I kept your attention on this one because this is a huge subject, and the implications are going to be affecting us the next 20 or 30 years. And what I laid out today is just example of the areas that artificial intelligence are into now. This is Just Listen, hosted by George. Let me know what you think and have a great day.